we know that MBA applications essays would ask candidates to talk about their career goals. I hope if everyone do not mind, you can also take turns to answer this. So how do you envision post-MBA goals as a current student? Vers, do you want to start? You did not prepare for this.
Okay. No, it's fine. How to envision post MBA career goals
as a current student?
Absolutely. You know, the thing is that it's okay if it changes. Having an idea of what you want to do, understanding the value of an MBA and why people get an MBA. In my research as to why people get an MBA, it's either to make an impact, pivot or transition into a career, gain fundamental knowledge and research, and also just to kind of realize their lifelong dreams. You know, what is that long-term dream? What is that goal that, you know, you want to shoot for the stars with? But when one of the things on our applications that we ask is it's actually our second essay question. And that's, you know, how will the Haas MBA help you get to your post-MBA career goals? And one of the things that we like you to do is sit back and reflect on what are some areas of or areas or gaps in your leadership profile that you're missing that you're hoping that Haas can help rectify in a sense, right? So, you know, do I want to be more outspoken? Do I want to, you know, have more public speaking skills? Do I want to be able to do more consulting work or things of that nature? Do I want to level up? It's really just about you kind of self-reflecting, but it also takes a lot of forethought, right? So just imagine yourself on a couch, right? Sitting back and, you know, thinking about, you know, what do I want to do? What is my life? What do I want to do in 5 to 10 years? This is kind of what this is about, right? Only you can kind of tell me that. And that's a lot of that is like reflecting on what you do on a day-to-day basis, what makes your heart sing, what makes you feel alive. This is kind of what helps you get to that career goal. Making drafts, talking to your peers, talking to mentors, and just exploring different things that it will help get to that point as to what you want to do.
Thank you, Vers. We'll get into the what makes you feel alive part later on, which is also hard in my opinion. So any other panelists would like to share your advice about kind of how to envision the post-MBA career goals? I know Jake Wharton also asked that question, right?
Yeah. My guidance for that is, and Vers did a good job like framing it, and I agree with that entirely. The way I sometimes articulate what a college senior can disclose as part of their post-MBA goals, instead of framing it as goals, like what is your current professional orientation, and give yourself the bandwidth to have that flexibility. Vers said it really well. You are not going to be beholden to what you're identifying at this juncture of your life. But if you're just giving us a sense of this is where you're currently seeing on the horizon, and for some of you, you'll know, some of you that horizon is taking really strong form. You know exactly what's out there. And for some of you, it's pretty hazy. In either case, that's totally fine for us, because we know these next couple of years will be transformative, and you're going to learn a lot in that space that'll make more clarity there. So I think just give yourself wiggle room.
Thank you, Jake. Christine, I know that Stanford merged the why Stanford portion to the career goal related essay questions. So should students like talk about resources they plan to utilize at Stanford to their career goals?
Yeah, for all of the reasons that Vers and Jake mentioned, we understand that this, for you especially, is a time of exploration. So we're interested in learning more about what you're thinking about doing both before the MBA and after, whatever is true for you at this moment in time. And so that's why we don't have a full dedicated essay space to goals, because we know these are evolving. But in our Why Stanford essay, it is helpful that you sort of touch upon what those goals are and then sort of connect the dots to the resources. And that's, I think, just a good exercise for you to do as you're exploring all of the different programs out there, thinking about your goals and then thinking about all of the resources and opportunities that exist at each of the programs to help you figure out which place might be the right fit for you.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Rachel and Maria, do you have any further advice on that?
Yeah, once again, I will just add a little something again, because the civil scholars program is a little bit different, and the expectation is that you will enroll in our full-time program immediately upon completing your undergraduate studies, we do expect more clarity and specificity from your short-term goals, right? And so we don't have a dedicated essay to that question, but we do ask the question. We provide a little bit of space where you can write a few sentences to articulate those short-term goals. And so we do expect you to have thought about industry, company, role, function, oftentimes even geography, in terms of what you hope to accomplish during that extended internship and immediately upon completing your MBA. And then the long-term goals can be stated more generally. Who knows what they're doing 10, 15 years from now. We do expect you to have a goal in mind. You can write that, but nothing too specific.
Thank you, Maria. Rachel, I know MIT did not specifically ask that, but what are your thoughts about navigating, like envisioning this post-MBA thing?
Definitely. So MIT won't ask about your short or long-term goals specifically. There is some open space where some of our students do share these things in their cover letter. But I think that what we're looking for is MBA readiness. And so that's more about just your professional execution, your professional presence, looking at some of your undergraduate courses and the things that you've been involved in leadership wise. So for us, we think about it a little bit slightly different and really focus on your readiness. And we have a 2 to 5 year window where you'll go out and work full time and then select your year when you're ready. And so that process includes a screening call with our admissions team. When you start to think, okay, I think I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to now enter this MBA program, you speak with us. And so we can understand what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and what the best choice is for when to start. And so that's a little bit about how our admissions committee thinks about this.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So with that, I do really want to just give further advice about, because I do see students, like I talked to a student this morning and they were taking a gap semester to prepare for the GMAT. Mm-hmm. And I was like, have you talked to, like, how come you did not even talk to me about making that decision? So like, your MBA is part of your career planning process, right? They are eventually going to help you professionally, but don't like sacrifice your chance of like recruiting or your time to graduate in order to just, and my point is, don't consider MBA program as kind of like a shelter. Oh, I want to like escape from the job market and I would just want to focus on applying to a program that is, we are talking about deferred, except Yale, in a few years, right? But we can chat more about kind of, are you going to apply now or not? Okay, so I'm going to move forward with the second question. Talking a little, I think Rachel, we last question later on you, but I know a lot of other schools would have a few essay questions, but MIT is a little bit different. Only ask candidates to like showcase all the awesomeness in the 300-word cover letter. How is it even possible?
It is a small word count. So I understand, this question overall, but I think that when you're thinking about this, the first question just sort of leads this way. We're looking for professional and concise writing. And so within this cover letter, it is open-ended. We ask you to just tell us about, your candidacy in this letter. So it is short. It will take some time to cut down on the examples you're trying to give us. But I think overall, what we're seeing is an opportunity for you to very concisely tell us about who you are, what you're thinking, what drives you. And that gives our admissions committee a little bit more of a sense of who you are in a professional format. And then I'll explain more about, I don't want to ruin any other questions about more of our components, but we do have other pieces to fill in any gaps that maybe our students feel from, I want to say more, there's more to me, of course. And so there's some other places to utilize some extra space there.
Yeah, I love your like 1 minute video thing. Yeah, so we'll check more about other components. But so the next question is for Maria. So I know you have the biggest commitment essay, same as the regular MBA programs. What are you actually looking for in a essay like this?
Yeah, this is actually our only essay. This is it. Describe the biggest commitment that you've ever made. And we don't really give you a whole lot of space, 500 words. It's not that much more than 300, right? It's about a page and a half. The history behind the question here is that we think that business school, earning an MBA is a big commitment, right? In terms of time, money, resources, etc. And so through this question, we wanted to understand how you've approached a previous commitment in your life, okay? What we're looking for reading the essays is sort of the introduction to the essay should be about the motivation behind the commitment, right? What kind of compelled you to commit to that thing, person, entity, organization, concept, etc., etc. And the substance of the essay should be dedicated to telling us how you carried out that commitment, right? What did it take in terms of time, effort, energy? And I want to make it very clear that we're really not judging you on the commitment that you choose to write about. Okay, that's not the point of the essay. It's really about how you carried out that commitment. Okay, so you make sure to focus your essay on that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that just because you're applying to an MBA program and to business school doesn't mean that we're looking for a professional commitment, something you've done in an internship or on a project in school. It can really be anything. Some candidates have written about deeply personal commitments to self, to parents, siblings, partners, mentees, etc. There is obviously a fair share of professional commitments and everything in between that you can think of, artistic, athletic, spiritual commitments. As we all know, commitments come in all shapes and forms. So make sure to spend some time reflecting on your biggest commitment and really telling us what it is, as opposed to trying to come up with something that you think the committee will like. We want this to be a, sort of a genuine exercise in exploring what is your biggest commitment.
Thank you. And so the next one is, I promise we are going to touch this part. So Haas has the first essay, what makes you feel alive? First, can you talk about advise students on how to approach that essay?
Absolutely. I'm just going to say this. I love reading essays. It's one of my favorite things to do. The What Makes You Feel Alive essay has been around for about maybe 4 years now. I don't see us getting rid of it. I think it gives us a lot of insight into a candidate's day-to-day and who they are, what makes them tick. My advice is to be genuine, be authentic. Don't try to stand out, be human. I've read so many amazing essays that were personal. I've read some that were professional, and that can range from running, hiking, glamping, hip hop, Legos. It's only 300 words, so I would say don't address a topic too big for that space. You definitely want to introduce the topic, but you also, so what makes you feel alive, blah, and then why. So often people will say what makes them feel alive, the thing, but they don't say why. They don't take me on that journey. So for example, with me, I love hip hop. I love spoken word. I love music. So I want to probably talk to you about maybe one of my favorite songs and what it does to me internally, physically. Just take me on that journey, put me on stage with you if you were to set that stage, Also, we want to know, who you are on the day-to-day. So yeah, like I said, don't try to stand out. What makes me unique? How can I stand out? Just be human, be honest. One of the things that I also will say is if you take a step back and you look at your application and the materials that you've submitted to us, and you say, okay, I've submitted to them, they know who I am academically, because of my transcripts, my GRE, all this coursework that I've done. They know who I am professionally because of these LORs and my resume and my career goals. But then you're like, well, who am I on the day-to-day? You know, am I sarcastic? Am I funny? Do I like to go on adventures? Like, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know who you genuinely are. And that's exactly what the admissions committee is looking for. So the what makes you feel alive, it can be personal or professional. The choice is yours, but it's your voice.
Great, thank you, Verse. I'm so sorry, I just sent Ashley the right link to join us. So Ashley from Chicago booth, that's welcome. Can you make a quick introduction of you, please?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Ashley Clark, and I am an admissions director at Chicago booth.
Yeah, so Ashley, we actually already asked a question about why UC Berkeley students should apply to your school. And I know that Chicago booth, which has a lot of Nobel winners, just like UC Berkeley. And then I heard that the MBA program is also kind of like hardcore in terms of like a coding requirement, quantitative analysis portion of it. So what if a student thinks that they are not that like, you know, like savvy in quant? So why should they still consider applying to both?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So again, no worries if you aren't quant focused. I am not quant focused. So that's okay. But through our flexible curriculum, we really want you to have the opportunity to explore whatever you think will best support your goals post-booth, whether it's management or, you know, the study of human behavior or marketing. No worries. We have our educational philosophies called the Chicago approach. And essentially, we want to teach you how to think and not what to think. So through the Chicago approach, you will gain those analytical skills, but you'll also gain competency outside of like the quant focus skills, such as like emotional intelligence, people management, and then leadership skills. So no worries if you are not quant focused.
Great, thank you, Ashley. So we'll continue the question about applying. So the question originally assigned to you has already been discussed, but you're more than welcome to join the next round's discussion about more general application process. So Christine, the very famous "What matters most to you?" I happened to was a MBA admissions consultant before this role, and I coached some students on this, and then I heard a student talking to me say, I heard that I need to like after writing this essay, I need to be like so touched and then I almost cry. So are you looking for some kind of those like, you know, effect? Like what is the good, what matters to you the most essay?
Yes. Making us cry is not a requirement for this essay. We should say that right off the bat. And truly, a lot of the advice I was going to share for this question, both Verse and Maria brought up as they were talking about their essay questions for their school, because I think a lot of the advice that we give students when they're thinking about approaching this essay is universal and will be helpful regardless of which essay or essays you're thinking about writing. Because really, the best way to address this essay is to be authentic, to be yourself, to really tap into what that answer looks like for you. So again, you know, a lot of the advice that Verse gave and Maria, thinking about, you know, what makes you feel alive, your biggest commitment, what matters to you, sort of in that same vein. So why not think about all of those things, right? And really tap into yourself and understand what motivates you, where your passions lie. Because the more that you know yourself and the more you work on articulating that, the better we have an opportunity to get to know you in these essay spaces. On the tactical, practical front, I would say some advice here. Remember that this is actually only one part of the essay question. So here on the page, it says, what matters most to you? The second part of that question is, and why? So a lot of times we'll get the what, and not everyone will sort of go to that place and explain the why. So just remembering that there are two parts of that essay, but there's no one right answer here, right? It could be one thing or one idea. It could be a moment in time for you. It could be a combination of things. There's really no right answer here. The best essay, though, for us is the one that's going to help us get to know you just a little bit better.
Thank you, Kristen. So students, you can see the intentionality that I try to put the three relevant questions together. Okay, Jake, now let's talk about interviews. The Wharton's interview is very different than other schools. So you have the team-based discussion. Can you demystify it a little bit? What is it and how to prepare?
Yeah, this is a great question. So for those candidates who are offered the opportunity to interview at Wharton, instead of doing exclusively one-on-one interviews with some member of our team or an alum or current student, we thought it was really important for our team to actually learn a little bit more and see you collaborate in real time and have that be part of our consideration of you. So what happens is our interview invitations will go out. I'm forgetting the exact date right now, but it's like sometime in the end of May. It's on our website, like the exact date. And then we give you at that moment the prompt that you'll be discussing. So it's some sort of Wharton program or affiliated program. And we say, you're part of this team. We want you to come to the interview, come to the team-based discussion with a 60-second pitch of what you think the group should do. You will then, when you actually arrive about a week later, you will be randomly assigned with 6 other people in a Zoom space. And the team-based discussion starts by you each share your pitch, and then you just collaborate. You go from ideation as a group and over the course of 30 minutes, navigate together to a final team recommendation. And honestly, like to prepare, you only need to do what's necessary to have a semblance of about a 60-second pitch. But all we're trying to learn about is not who can do the right pitch or who has the best influence or who's the best leader. We're just trying to see and understand in what ways are you part of a team that can help move the group forward and facilitate a discussion. Another name for a team-based discussion is a leaderless group exercise. So we're not looking for the best leader. We're simply looking for in what ways do you help a team move forward. And the great thing about it is every single member of your team, number one, becomes part of your network. I hear time and time again, people who were ultimately enrolled in the MOLS program in Wharton and people who don't, that they stay in touch with one another because of that engagement. And you all have the ability, all 6 of you can very well be admitted to the program. So you're not competing against one another. You're just sharing some time and supporting and empowering one another. I'd only add my only advice beyond what I just shared is just don't be a jerk to the group around you, empower one another, be supportive, and you're going to be in really, really good shape. It's a blast.
Thank you, Jake. So the TBD is kind of a snapshot of what an MBA classroom or group project look like. So you really want to show, I think, as someone mentioned, MBA readiness in all different components of your applications. All right, thank you all.